I always knew I was Elena's second choice. What I didn't know was that I was also the punchline. The realization hit me on a Tuesday, not during some dramatic confrontation or tearful confession, but while I was brushing my teeth. Elena was in the shower, singing off-key to some pop song, and her phone buzzed on the counter. 3 times, 4 of 5. I wouldn't have looked, except the preview text was visible. Last night was incredible. When can we... The sender? Jake Carter. My best friend since college. The guy who'd been best man at our wedding 3 years ago. The former football star who still acted like every room was his personal end zone. I rinsed my mouth, set down my toothbrush with the careful precision of a man defusing a bomb, and picked up her phone. No password. She'd always said she had nothing to hide. Funny how that worked. The messages went back months. Detailed, explicit, shameless. They'd been meeting at his penthouse every Thursday when I thought she was working late on the Kellerman account. They'd done it in her office. In his car. Once, and this detail made my stomach turn, in our guest bedroom while I was at a construction site inspection. But it was the older messages that really got me, from before the wedding. "Are you sure about this?" Jake had written 2 weeks before we said our vows. "It's just for a few years," Elena had replied. "Nick's company is about to blow up. Once I'm positioned right, we can be together. He'll never see it coming." I stood there, toothpaste foam still clinging to my lip, reading my entire marriage revealed as a con. A long game, a setup. Elena stepped out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, water dripping from her dark hair. She was beautiful, objectively stunning in that way that had always made me feel lucky. Now she just looked like a stranger wearing my wife's face. "Morning, babe," she said, kissing my cheek. "You okay? You look pale." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Fine," I managed. "Just tired." "Well, wake up. We've got that thing at Jake's tonight, remember? His promotion party." Of course, Jake's promotion party, where I'd be expected to smile and congratulate my best friend on his success while he and my wife exchanged secret glances across the room. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. The thing about structural engineering is that it teaches you patience. You don't rush a foundation, you don't cut corners on load-bearing walls. You plan, you calculate, and you build something that lasts. I spent that entire day at my office staring at blueprints without seeing them. My partner, Frank, a grizzled 50-something who'd been in the business since before I was born, kept shooting me concerned looks. "You having a stroke, Rowan? You've been looking at that same corner detail for an hour." "Just thinking through some structural problems," I said, which was true, in a way. Frank grunted. "Elena still giving you grief about the Kellerman project?" "Something like that." The Kellerman project was my baby, a mixed-use development in downtown Boston that would make my reputation if it went well. Elena had been pushing me to bring Jake's investment firm in on it, said it would be good for everyone. Now I understood why. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Cassie, Elena's twin sister. They were identical physically, but that's where the similarities ended. Where Elena was polished and calculating, Cassie was raw and honest. Where Elena wore designer suits, Cassie wore paint-stained jeans and worked in her art studio. Where Elena had always treated me like a useful accessory, Cassie had always treated me like a person. We'd gotten close over the past year, bonding over our shared sarcasm and Elena's increasing emotional distance. I told myself it was innocent, just friends. But now, standing in my office with my marriage revealed as a fraud, I realized Cassie might be the only person I could trust. I texted her, "Need to talk. Coffee?" Her response came immediately. "Everything okay?" "No, but it will be." We met at a shabby coffee shop in Cambridge, the kind of place Elena would never be seen in. Cassie was already there, wearing a flannel shirt with real paint stains on it, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked anxious. "What happened?" she asked as I sat down. I pulled out my phone, I'd screenshotted everything before Elena could delete it, and slid it across the table. Cassie's face went through a remarkable transformation as she scrolled. Shock, disgust, rage. Then something else I couldn't quite identify. "That absolute witch," she whispered. "Nick, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "Didn't you?" She looked up sharply. "What's that supposed to mean?" "At the rehearsal dinner, you got drunk and told me Elena can't be faithful. I thought you were just being dramatic." Cassie's face flushed. "I suspected. I didn't know. There's a difference." She pushed the phone back toward me. "What are you going to do?" I'm going to burn their lives to the ground, I said calmly. But I need your help. Anything. How would you feel about going to a wedding? She blinked. What wedding? Ours. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks with the precision of a well-designed building. Every detail mattered. Every piece had to fit perfectly. First, I needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal. I hired a private investigator, a former cop named Detective Avery who owed Frank a favor. Within a week, I had everything. Photos, timestamps, financial records showing Jake had been funneling Elena money through a shell company, emails proving they'd been planning to squeeze me out of the Kellerman project once it was secured. It was worse than I'd thought. They weren't just having an affair, they were actively working to destroy me professionally while bleeding my company dry. Second, I needed insurance. I met with my lawyer and restructured everything. My assets, my company shares, my intellectual property, all of it protected in ways Elena's eventual divorce attorney would spend years trying to untangle. Third, I needed an ally who could get inside Elena's head. That's where Cassie came in. She thinks you're on her side, I told her over dinner at my apartment. I had moved out of the house saying I needed space for a major project. Keep her thinking that. This feels weird, Nick. She's my sister. She's a con artist who happens to share your DNA. There's a difference. Cassie was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but I want to know the full plan. So I told her. When I finished, she was smiling, a sharp, dangerous smile that looked wrong on Elena's face but perfect on hers. You're kind of terrifying, you know that? I'm a structural engineer. I'm good at controlled demolitions. Jake's promotion party was everything I expected. Expensive liquor, pretentious conversation, and Jake holding court like the king of Boston finance. He saw me come in and his face did something complicated. Guilt? Triumph? Hard to tell under all that hair gel. Nick, glad you made it, buddy. He pulled me into a bro hug that made my skin crawl. Where's Elena? Running late. Work thing. I smiled. Congratulations on the promotion. Must feel good, being on top? Something flickered in his eyes. You know it. Hey, we should talk about the Kellerman project soon. I've got some investors who might... Actually, about that. I kept my voice casual. I've decided to go a different direction. Brought in some West Coast money instead. Should have mentioned it earlier. Jake's smile froze. What? But we talked about this. Elena said... Elena says a lot of things. I clapped him on the shoulder. Anyway, enjoy your party. I'm going to grab a drink. I left him standing there, confusion and anger warring on his face, and made my way to the bar. This was just the opening move, a small crack in the foundation. But every demolition starts with a crack. Elena arrived 20 minutes later, stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than my first car. She found me and Jake talking with a group of his finance bros, all of them laughing at some story about market manipulation that they thought was hilarious. Sorry I'm late, she said, kissing my cheek. Her perfume was different, something new, probably a gift from Jake. Traffic was murder. No worries. I was just telling Jake about the Kellerman project changes. Her smile didn't waver, but her hand tightened on my arm. Changes? Yeah, brought in some new investors. We can talk about it later. We didn't talk about it later. We had a screaming fight in the car on the way home, Elena demanding to know why I'd cut Jake out, me playing dumb and confused about why she cared so much. He's your best friend, she shouted. Exactly. Business and friendship don't mix. You taught me that. She went quiet then, staring out the window. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out if I knew if this was some kind of test. Let her wonder. The wedding was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Not ours, obviously, but that of Elena's college roommate. Big society affair. Everyone who was anyone in Boston would be there. Elena had been looking forward to it for months, had already bought a dress, had already planned which connections she'd make and which rumors she'd start. She wasn't going to make it. 2 days before the wedding, I told her I'd been invited to speak at a structural engineering conference in Seattle. Last-minute thing, huge opportunity, couldn't miss it. This weekend? She looked stricken. But the wedding? I know, I'm sorry, you'll have to go without me. Nick, this is important. These are important people. So is my career. The career you're always telling me to focus on. She couldn't argue with that without revealing too much, so she went to the wedding alone, wearing her expensive dress, ready to network and scheme. Except I wasn't in Seattle. I was at City Hall with Cassie, signing a marriage license. The plan was insane. I knew it was insane. Cassie knew it was insane. But sometimes insanity is the only logical response to betrayal. Are you absolutely sure about this? Cassie asked for the 100th time. We were in her studio apartment, surrounded by half-finished paintings and the smell of turpentine. Once we do this, there's no taking it back. That's the point. She studied my face, looking for cracks. You know this isn't just about revenge, right? If we actually go through with this, we're married. Legally married. I know. And you're okay with that? Being married to me instead of my sister? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Same face as Elena, same dark eyes and sharp cheekbones. But where Elena's beauty had always felt like a weapon, Cassie's felt like a refuge. Where Elena's smile had been calculated, Cassie's was genuine. Yeah, I said. I'm okay with that. She smiled then, soft and uncertain. Okay, let's burn it all down. The wedding reception was at the Fairmont, all crystal chandeliers and old money. I arrived fashionably late with Cassie on my arm. She was wearing a dress identical to the one Elena had shown me weeks ago. We'd had it custom made, down to the last detail. From across the room, she was indistinguishable from her twin. We made our entrance during dinner, walking past tables full of Boston's elite. I saw heads turn, saw confusion ripple through the crowd. Elena was already here somewhere, wearing the same dress. This was going to be good. We found her at the bar, chatting with Vanessa, her co-worker and partner in gossip. Elena saw us approaching, and her face went through a remarkable journey. Surprise, confusion, then dawning horror as she realized who she was looking at. Nick? Her voice was strangled. What are you? You're supposed to be in Seattle. Change of plans. I smiled. You remember Cassie, right? Of course you do. You're twins. Elena's eyes darted between us, landing on Cassie's dress. What the hell are you wearing? You like it? Cassie did a little spin. Nick helped me pick it out. Why are you... Elena grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. We need to talk. Now. Actually, we need to make an announcement. I gently removed her hand. Everyone? I raised my voice, and the nearby conversations died. Sorry to interrupt, but I have some news to share. Elena's face went pale. Nick, don't... Cassie and I got married this afternoon. City Hall, very intimate. We wanted you all to be the first to know. The silence was spectacular. You could have heard a champagne bubble pop. Then the chaos started. Elena's face went from pale to red to purple. You what? Got married. You know, that thing where two people pledge their lives to each other? Except this time I actually meant it. This is insane. She turned to Cassie. What did you do? What did you tell him? The truth, Cassie said calmly. Something you've never been very good at. Vanessa, who'd been watching with growing horror, grabbed Elena's arm. Sweetie, maybe we should stay out of this. Elena whirled back to me. Nick, you can't marry her. You're married to me. Actually, I filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. You were served at your office. Guess you were too busy to notice. That was a lie. The papers wouldn't be filed until Monday, but Elena didn't know that. She was too busy having a very public meltdown in front of Boston's social elite, all of whom were now staring with a mixture of shock and barely concealed delight. This was the best gossip they'd had in years. You can't do this, Elena hissed. I'll fight it. I'll take everything. With what? The money Jake's been giving you through that shell company? The one that's technically illegal, by the way. Detective Avery was very interested in those transactions. Her face went white. You're blowing this out of proportion. Jake and I are just... sleeping together? Planning to steal my company? Yeah, I know. Everyone's about to know. I pulled out my phone and pulled up the screenshots, handed it to Vanessa, who'd been listening with growing horror. You might want to read these, I told her, especially the parts where Elena talks about manipulating the Kellerman project. Since you're on that account too, you'll probably want to get ahead of this before HR starts asking questions. Vanessa took the phone with shaking hands. Her face went from confused to horrified to furious in about 30 seconds. You told Jake about the Kellerman financials? She whispered. Elena, that's confidential client information. That's, oh my God, I could lose my license. It's not what it looks like, Elena started, but Vanessa was already backing away, still scrolling through the messages. You've been setting me up, Vanessa said. All those emails you had me send to Jake's firm, you said it was approved by legal. But it wasn't, was it? You were feeding him insider information and using me as the go-between so it couldn't be traced back to you. Vanessa, calm down. I'm going to the partners. Tonight. Vanessa shoved the phone back at me and turned to Elena. You're done. We're done. Don't ever contact me again. She stalked off, leaving Elena standing there in her expensive dress, her perfect mask finally cracking. You bastard, she whispered. You planned this. I learned from the best. I took Cassie's hand. Come on, honey. Let's go celebrate our marriage. We left Elena standing there, surrounded by whispering guests and the ruins of her reputation. As we walked out, I heard someone say, "Did you see her face?" And someone else reply, "I always knew there was something off about her." In the car, Cassie was shaking. "Oh my God, I can't believe we just did that." "That was just the opening act," I said. "Wait until Jake finds out." Jake found out an hour later when Elena called him from the bathroom of the Fairmont, hysterical and incoherent. I know this because Detective Avery had been monitoring Jake's phone, legally questionable, but Avery had his ways. He called me at midnight. "Your boy Jake just left his apartment in a hurry. Looked pissed. Thought you should know." "Where's he headed?" "If I had to guess, your place." "Perfect. Thanks, Avery." I hung up and looked at Cassie, who was curled up on my couch in sweatpants and one of my t-shirts, the expensive dress discarded on a chair. She looked nervous. "He's coming here?" "Probably. You should go in the bedroom. This might get ugly." "I'm not hiding. We're in this together." Before I could argue, there was a pounding on the door. Not a knock, a full-on assault that made the frame rattle. "Nick, open this door right now." I took my time walking over, checking the security camera I'd installed last week. Jake was there, red-faced and furious, still wearing his suit from whatever bar he'd been at. I opened the door but kept the chain on. "Little late for a social call, Jake." "What the hell did you do?" He tried to push the door open, but the chain held. "Elena just called me crying. She said you married Cassie. She said you're trying to ruin her career." "I didn't try to do anything. I succeeded." "You can't just—" "Let me in. We need to talk about this like adults." Adults don't sleep with their best friend's wife, or plot to steal his company, or spend months manipulating him while pretending to be his friend. Jake's face changed. The anger shifted to something else, calculation. "She told you." "She didn't have to. I found the messages, all of them, including the ones from before the wedding where you two planned this whole thing." "Nick, listen." "No, you listen. You and Elena thought you could play me, thought I was too stupid or too trusting to notice, and you were right, for a while. But here's the thing about structural engineering, Jake. We're really good at finding weak points. And you two? You're nothing but weak points." "This is insane. You married her sister? What kind of sick revenge?" "The kind you deserve. Now get off my property before I call the cops." "I'm not going anywhere until we—" I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo. It was from 3 days ago, taken by Detective Avery's partner. Jake and Elena in Jake's car parked in a lot downtown. The angle was very clear about what they were doing. "I have about 50 more of these," I said. "Plus financial records, emails, text messages, and a recorded confession from Elena that I got last week when she tried to seduce me back. You want to keep pounding on my door, or do you want to go home and start figuring out how you're going to explain all this to your boss when it hits the news?" Jake stared at the photo, his face going from red to white. "You wouldn't. Try me." We stood there for a long moment, staring at each other through the gap in the door. Finally, Jake stepped back. "This isn't over," he said. "Yeah, it is. You just don't know it yet." I closed the door and locked it, listening to his footsteps retreat down the hallway. When I turned around, Cassie was standing in the bedroom doorway, looking shaken. "Is he gone?" "For now." "Nick, what if he does something crazy? What if he tries to hurt you?" "He won't. Jake's a coward. He only picks fights he knows he can win." I walked over and took her hands. "Hey, you okay?" "I don't know. This is all happening so fast. Yesterday I was just your friend, and now we're married, and my sister hates me, and—" "Do you regret it?" She looked up at me, her eyes, Elena's eyes, but somehow completely different, searching my face. "No. Do you?" "Not even a little bit." She smiled then, and kissed me. It was soft and uncertain, and nothing like kissing Elena had ever been. Elena's kisses had been performances. This was real. "So what happens now?" she asked when we broke apart. "Now? Now we let them destroy themselves. We just gave them the matches. They'll burn it all down on their own." I was right about the self-destruction, but I underestimated how spectacular it would be. The first domino fell Monday morning when Vanessa went to the partners at Elena's firm with everything. The screenshots, the timeline, the evidence of Elena feeding confidential information to Jake's investment firm. By noon, Elena was suspended pending investigation. By 3 p.m., she was fired. She called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. The second domino fell Tuesday when Jake's firm got an anonymous tip, from me, obviously, about potential insider trading related to the Kellerman project. The SEC doesn't mess around with that kind of thing. Within hours, Jake was suspended and his accounts were frozen pending investigation. He showed up at my office that evening, trying to push past Frank at the front desk. "Nick, I know you're here. We need to talk." Frank, bless him, stepped in front of Jake like a bouncer. "Mr. Rowan doesn't want to see you." "Get out of my way, old man. Make me football star." I came out of my office before things could escalate. "It's okay, Frank. I'll handle this." Jake looked awful. Unshaven, his suit wrinkled, his eyes tired and red. "You did this. You called the SEC. I reported potential illegal activity. That's what responsible citizens do." There was no insider trading. Elena just mentioned some general details about the project, that's all. It's not like I acted on it. "Then you have nothing to worry about. I'm sure the investigation will clear that right up." "You're destroying my life." "No, Jake. You destroyed your own life. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." He lunged at me then, actually threw a punch. I saw it coming. Jake had always telegraphed his moves, even back in college, and stepped aside. His fist hit the wall instead, and he yelped in pain. Frank grabbed him from behind, surprisingly strong for a guy in his 50s. "That's assault. Want me to call the cops?" "No," I said. "I want him to leave and never come back. Jake, if I see you anywhere near me, my office, or my wife again, I'm filing a restraining order. Are we clear?" Jake cradled his hand, breathing hard. "Your wife. That's rich. You married Elena's sister just to spite her. What kind of sick person does that?" "The kind who's tired of being played. Now get out." Frank escorted him to the door and physically shoved him out. After he was gone, Frank turned to me with a raised eyebrow. "Want to tell me what that was about?" "Long story." "I've got time." So I told him. Everything. The affair, the con, the plan to steal the Kellerman project. When I finished, Frank was quiet for a long moment. "You married her sister," he finally said. "Yeah. That's either the smartest or the stupidest thing you've ever done. I haven't decided which. Neither have I." The third domino fell Wednesday when the gossip hit social media. Someone at the wedding, probably one of Vanessa's friends, had recorded Elena's meltdown and posted it online. Within hours, it was everywhere. "Boston PR executive has public breakdown after husband marries her twin sister" was trending on Twitter. The video was brutal. You could see Elena's face going through every stage of grief in real time. You could hear her voice rising, getting shrill and desperate. You could see the moment she realized she'd lost control of the narrative, and the comments were merciless. "Imagine being so terrible your husband prefers your sister." "PR executive can't even manage her own public image, lol." "The twin upgrade is savage," Elena called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered this time, curious. "Are you happy now?" Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "Everyone's laughing at me. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. Is this what you wanted?" "What I wanted was a wife who loved me. What I got was a con artist. So yeah, Elena, this is exactly what you deserve." "I did love you. I do love you. You loved my company. You loved my potential. You loved what I could do for your career. You never loved me." "That's not true. Jake was just... It was just physical. It didn't mean anything." "It meant everything. You and Jake planned this from the beginning. You married me to get access to my business, to position yourself for when the Kellerman project took off. You were going to wait until I was successful enough that the divorce settlement would set you up for life, then run off with Jake. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise." Silence on the other end. Then, "Cassie doesn't love you either. She's just doing this to hurt me." "Maybe, but at least she's honest about it." "Nick, please. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. I'll do anything." "It's too late, Elena. You burned this bridge and then nuked the ashes. There's nothing left to save. You're going to regret this, both of you." "I doubt it. Goodbye, Elena." I hung up and blocked the number. Cassie, who'd been listening from the kitchen, came over and wrapped her arms around me. "You okay?" "Yeah. You?" "She called me too. Said some really awful things." "Like what?" "Doesn't matter. She's lashing out because she's cornered." Cassie pulled back and looked at me. "Nick, are we doing the right thing? I mean, she's still my sister. Part of me feels like we should..." "Should what? Let her get away with it. Let Jake get away with it." "They tried to destroy me, Cassie. Not just hurt me, destroy me. My business, my reputation, my life. And they would have succeeded if I hadn't found out." "I know, She sighed. "I keep thinking about when we were kids. Before she got so competitive and calculating. She used to be different. People change. Elena chose who she wanted to be. Now she gets to live with the consequences." The fourth domino fell Thursday when Jake's finance bros started distancing themselves from him. I know this because one of them, a guy named Trevor, who'd never liked Jake much anyway, reached out to me directly. "Hey man, I heard about what happened with Jake and your wife. That's messed up." We met for coffee at a place in the financial district. Trevor was nervous, kept glancing around like he expected Jake to appear. "I wanted to give you a heads up," he said. "Jake's been talking, saying some pretty nasty things about you and Cassie, trying to spin the narrative like you're the bad guy." "What's he saying?" "That you were abusive to Elena, that you married Cassie to control both sisters, that you're trying to frame him for insider trading because you're jealous of his success." Trevor grimaced. "It's bull, obviously. I've known Jake for 5 years, and the guy's always been a snake, but he's convincing, and he's got some people believing him." "Let me guess. He's planning to go public with this?" There's a reporter from the Globe sniffing around. "Jake's been feeding her information." I smiled. "Perfect." Trevor blinked. "Perfect? Dude, he's trying to destroy your reputation. Let him try. I've got evidence. Real, documented, time-stamped evidence of everything he and Elena did. If he wants to turn this into a public war, I'll bury him." "You sound pretty confident." "That's because I am. Jake's playing checkers. I'm playing chess." Trevor laughed. "Man, remind me never to piss you off." The Globe article came out Friday. It was a hit piece, no question. Jake had clearly given them his version of events, painting himself as the victim of a jealous, controlling husband who'd manipulated everyone around him. Nick Rowan, a structural engineer with a history of aggressive behavior, allegedly orchestrated an elaborate revenge scheme after discovering his wife's friendship with college friend Jake Carter. Sources say Rowan became obsessed with the idea that his wife was having an affair, despite no concrete evidence, and went to extreme lengths to punish both her and Carter, including fraudulent marriage to his wife's twin sister. It was masterful fiction. Almost believable, if you didn't know the truth. The article went viral. Suddenly I was the villain, the crazy, controlling husband who'd destroyed 2 innocent people's lives over his own paranoid delusions. My phone exploded with messages, some supportive, more hostile. Someone spray-painted "Psycho" on my car. A group of Elena's friends organized a protest outside my office, holding signs that said, "Believe women and abusers don't win." Frank wanted to call the cops. Cassie wanted to release the evidence immediately, but I told them both to wait. "Why?" Cassie demanded. "They're destroying you. Everyone thinks you're some kind of monster. Because Jake just made a fatal mistake. He went public without knowing what cards I'm holding. Now when I release the evidence, it won't just prove he's a liar, it'll prove he's a manipulator who tried to use the media to cover his crimes. And if people don't believe the evidence, they will. Trust me." I waited until Monday. Let the story simmer over the weekend, let Jake and Elena think they'd won. Then I called a press conference. Every media outlet in Boston showed up. They were expecting a rebuttal, maybe some weak denials. What they got was a full-scale evidence dump. I stood at the podium in a rented conference room, Cassie beside me, and methodically destroyed Elena and Jake's narrative. First, let me address the claim that I had no evidence of an affair. I pulled up the first slide, screenshots of text messages between Elena and Jake, with timestamps. These messages go back 14 months. They're explicit, detailed, and clearly show a continuing intimate relationship. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. Second, the claim that I'm controlling or abusive. Next slide, financial records. These show regular transfers from Jake Carter to my ex-wife through a shell company. The transfers stopped 2 weeks ago when I filed for divorce. If I was so controlling, why was my wife receiving money from another man without my knowledge? More flashing cameras. Third, the insider trading allegations against Jake. I pulled up emails, the ones Vanessa had provided. These show Elena Rowan, who worked on the Kellerman project providing confidential client information to Jake Carter's investment firm. This is illegal. The SEC is currently investigating. The room was silent now, except for the clicking of cameras. Fourth, and most importantly, the claim that this was a paranoid delusion on my part. I pulled up the final slide. It was a screenshot of a text conversation between Elena and Jake from 2 weeks before our wedding. "Jake, are you sure about this? Marrying him?" Elena, "It's strategic. 3 years, maybe 4. Once his company takes off, I'll have enough in the divorce to set us both up. He'll never see it coming." Jake, "And if he finds out?" Elena, "He won't. Nick's too trusting. That's his weakness." The room erupted. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, the whole circus. I held up a hand for quiet. "I married Cassie Rowan because, unlike her sister, she's honest. Unlike Jake Carter, she's loyal. And unlike the media, she bothered to learn the truth before making judgments. That's all I have to say. Thank you. I walked out to a storm of shouted questions, Cassie's hand in mine, feeling lighter than I had in months. The reversal was swift and brutal. By Tuesday morning, the narrative had completely flipped. The same outlets that had called me a controlling psycho were now running stories about Elena and Jake's elaborate con. The protesters outside my office were gone, replaced by reporters wanting interviews. Elena's firm released a statement confirming her termination and announcing they were cooperating with authorities. Jake's investment firm did the same, adding that they were conducting an internal review of all his transactions. Social media, predictably, lost its mind. This is the most savage revenge plot I've ever seen. Married the twin sister. That's some Game of Thrones level scheming. Elena and Jake really thought they could gaslight everyone and got receipts instead. But the best part, the part that made all of this worth it, was watching Elena and Jake turn on each other. It started with an interview Elena gave to a sympathetic blogger, trying to salvage what was left of her reputation. In it, she claimed Jake had manipulated her, that she'd been in love with me, but Jake had seduced her and convinced her to help him steal the Kellerman project. I was vulnerable, she said, tears streaming down her face in the video. My marriage was struggling, and Jake took advantage of that. He made me think we had a future together, but really he just wanted access to Nick's business. It was a decent performance, almost believable if you didn't know her. Jake responded with his own interview, calling Elena a calculating manipulator who'd orchestrated the entire scheme and then tried to pin it on him when it fell apart. She came to me, he said, told me she was going to leave Nick and wanted my help positioning herself for the divorce. I was stupid enough to believe her. I thought we had something real. Turns out she was just using me like she used everyone else. They went back and forth like this for days, each interview more desperate and vindictive than the last. It was like watching two drowning people try to use each other as flotation devices. The entertainment value alone almost made up for the months of betrayal. But not everyone was entertained. Cassie was struggling. The reality of what we'd done, the public nature of it, the way it had consumed everything, was weighing on her. I can't go anywhere without people recognizing me, she said one night. We were at her studio. I'd been staying there more than my apartment, finding comfort in the smell of paint and turpentine. They either want to congratulate me or tell me I'm a terrible sister. Sometimes both. I'm sorry. I didn't think about how this would affect you. Yes, you did. You just thought it would be worth it. She wasn't accusing, just stating a fact. Was it worth it? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. What if in a year we hate each other? What if this whole marriage was just about revenge and there's nothing real underneath? Do you think that's what this is? She was quiet for a long time, mixing paint on her palette with mechanical precision. Finally, I think I've been in love with you for a year, maybe longer. I think I saw how Elena treated you, and it made me angry because you deserved better. I think when you asked me to marry you, part of me jumped at the chance, even though I knew it was crazy. My heart did something complicated in my chest. Cassie? But I also think you're still in love with the idea of Elena, the person you thought she was. And I think you married me because I look like her but act like the version you wanted her to be, and I don't know if I can live with being someone's consolation prize. She finally looked at me, and there were tears in her eyes, the first time I'd seen her cry through this whole mess. You're not a consolation prize, I said. You're... What? The better twin? The upgrade? That's what everyone keeps saying, like I'm a newer model of the same car. You're nothing like Elena. I have her face. You have her face, but you have your own heart, your own mind, your own soul, and those are the parts I stopped, the words catching in my throat. The parts you what? The parts I'm falling in love with. It was the first time I'd said it out loud, the first time I'd admitted, even to myself, that this had become more than revenge, more than strategy. Cassie set down her palette and walked over to me. You mean that? Yeah, I do. Even though we barely know each other? Even though this whole thing started as a plan to hurt my sister? Especially because of that. You knew this was crazy and you did it anyway. You risked everything. Your relationship with Elena, your reputation, your peace, to help me, that's not nothing. She kissed me then, and it was different from before. Less desperate, more certain. Like we were finally on solid ground instead of shifting sand. Okay, she said when we broke apart. Okay, we can figure this out. But Nick, no more schemes, no more revenge plots. Whatever happens with Elena and Jake from here, we let it happen. We focus on us. Deal? Deal. It was a promise I meant to keep. Really, I did. But then Jake broke into my apartment. It happened on a Thursday night. I went back to my place to grab some clothes and files for a meeting. Cassie was at a gallery opening showing some of her work. I opened the door and knew immediately something was off. The air felt disturbed, and there was a smell. Jake's expensive cologne. "Jake," I called out. "I know you're here. The cops are on their way." He emerged from my bedroom, looking worse than ever, holding my laptop. "Looking for something?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "You ruined my life," he hissed, his voice shaking. "My job, my future, all gone because you couldn't handle your wife finding someone better. You broke into my apartment. That's a felony." "I don't care anymore," he sneered. "I've got nothing left to lose, but you do. I bet there's evidence on here. Maybe you fabricated everything?" "There's nothing like that. Every piece of evidence I showed was real." "We'll see," he muttered. "I'm taking this to my lawyer." "Jake, put the laptop down and leave. You're making this worse." "Worse? How could it be worse?" He laughed bitterly. "I'm broke. The SEC froze my accounts. My firm fired me. I'm living in a motel. So yeah, I think I'll take my chances with breaking and entering." He moved toward the door, and I stepped in his way. "You're not taking that." "Move," he growled. "No." We stood facing each other, then Jake shoved me hard. I stumbled back, but he bolted for the door. I grabbed him in the hallway, spun him around, and the laptop flew from his hands. It skidded across the floor. "You're insane," Jake shouted, trying to pull away. "You broke into my home," I snapped back. We struggled, and I realized this was about to turn physical. Jake was bigger, but I was angrier. I shoved him against the wall, hard enough that his head bounced off the plaster. "You lost everything because you're a coward. You couldn't build your own success, so you stole mine. And now you blame me." He swung at me. His fist hit my jaw. Pain exploded, but I hit him back, hard. We went down in a tangle of limbs, rolling across the hallway, throwing punches. The door opened. Mrs. Chen from 4B stood there, horrified. "I'm calling the police." Jake quickly got to his feet, his nose bleeding, and rushed toward the stairs. I let him go, too focused on checking my jaw to follow him. The laptop was intact. The screen cracked but functional, and Jake's fingerprints were all over my apartment. The police showed up 10 minutes later. I gave a statement, presented the evidence of the break-in, and they obtained a warrant. Jake was apprehended 2 hours later at the motel, still wearing his shirt soaked in red stains. Cassie found me in the emergency room, sitting with an ice pack on my swollen jaw. "Are you okay?" she asked, mascara smudged from crying. "I'm fine, just bruised." "The cops called me," she said. "They said Jake broke into your apartment, that you two fought." "Yeah, he tried to steal my laptop. Thought he could find evidence I fabricated everything." "Did he?" "Of course not." She sat down beside me, taking my hand. "This has to stop. Jake's breaking into apartments. You're fighting. Where does it end?" "It ends when they accept that they lost." "And if they never accept it?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. The doctor came in with my x-rays. Nothing was fractured, just bruising and swelling. He gave me some medication for the pain. As we left, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You think you won? This isn't over. Not even close. Elena." Elena's threat wasn't idle. Over the next week, things escalated in ways I hadn't anticipated. First, she filed a lawsuit, not against me directly, but against Cassie, claimed that Cassie had alienated affections and conspired to destroy her marriage. It was a ridiculous suit that would never hold up in court, but it didn't need to. It just needed to be public and expensive and stressful. Second, she started a whisper campaign. Told anyone who would listen that I'd been abusive during our marriage, that Cassie had been helping me gaslight her for years, that the whole thing was a coordinated attack by two people who'd been having an affair behind her back. Some people believed her. Not many, but enough. Third, and most disturbingly, she started showing up places. Outside my office, near Cassie's studio, at restaurants where we ate, never close enough to violate a restraining order, which I'd filed after the lawsuit, but close enough to make it clear she was watching. "She's trying to make us paranoid," Cassie said. "Make us feel like we're always being watched. It's working." We were at Frank's house for dinner. He'd insisted, said we needed to get out of our own heads for a while. His wife, Martha, was a warm, grandmotherly woman who seemed determined to feed us until we burst. "You two look exhausted," she said, loading more pot roast onto my plate. "When's the last time you got a full night's sleep?" "Define full," I said. Frank shook his head. "This Elena woman sounds like a piece of work. You sure you don't want me to have a word with her? I know some guys who could make it very clear she needs to back off." "Frank, no. We're not hiring thugs." I said, have a word, not break her kneecaps. Though if you change your mind about the second part... Frank, Martha swatted his arm. Don't encourage him. Despite everything, I laughed. It felt good to laugh. After dinner, Frank pulled me aside while Cassie and Martha did dishes. Seriously, kid, how are you holding up? I don't know. Some days I think we're through the worst of it. Other days I wonder if we'll ever have a normal life again. You want my advice? End it. Not the marriage, the war. You've made your point. Elena and Jake are destroyed. Their careers are over, their reputations are shot, they're facing legal consequences. You won. Take your victory and move on. I tried to move on. Elena won't let me. Then make her. You're a smart guy, Nick. You've been 10 steps ahead this whole time. So figure out how to end this in a way that doesn't leave any loose ends. He was right. I'd been so focused on revenge that I hadn't thought about the endgame. How do you end a war when the other side refuses to surrender? The answer came to me on the drive home. I called Detective Avery the next morning. I need your help with something that will end this for good. I'm listening. I laid out my plan. It was risky, borderline unethical, and would require perfect timing. But if it worked, it would give me exactly what I needed. That's either brilliant or insane, Avery said when I finished. I've been hearing that a lot lately. Give me 2 days. I'll set it up. The charity gala was Jake's idea, or at least that's what Elena thought. In reality, Avery had planted the suggestion through one of Jake's few remaining friends, making it seem like a chance for Jake to rehabilitate his image. Big public event, lots of Boston elite, perfect opportunity to show you're still a player, the friend had said. Plus, Elena will be there. Maybe you two can present a united front, show everyone the media got it wrong. Jake, desperate and stupid, had jumped at the chance. The gala was at the Seaport Hotel, a massive ballroom overlooking the harbor. Black tie, champagne, the works, all proceeds going to some children's charity that Jake had probably never heard of until a week ago. I arrived with Cassie, both of us dressed to impress. She was nervous. This was the first time we'd be in the same room as Elena since the wedding fiasco. You're sure about this? She asked as we walked in. Positive. Trust me. The ballroom was packed with Boston's elite, all of them pretending they weren't desperately curious about the drama. I could feel eyes on us as we entered, hear the whispers. That's him. That's the husband. And the twin sister. God, they really do look identical. I heard Elena's here somewhere. This is going to be good. We found our table. Avery had made sure we were seated in the perfect position, with clear sightlines to the stage and the main entrance. Frank and Martha were there too, along with a few other allies. Showtime, Frank muttered as Elena entered. She looked stunning, of course. Red dress, hair perfect, makeup flawless. But there was something brittle about her now, a desperation in her eyes that no amount of cosmetics could hide. Jake was with her, and he looked worse. His suit didn't fit quite right. Probably couldn't afford his usual tailor anymore. His face was still slightly bruised from our fight, poorly covered with makeup. They saw us immediately. Elena's face went hard, Jake's went red. But they couldn't leave. That would look like we'd chased them off. So they took their seats on the opposite side of the room and tried to pretend we didn't exist. The dinner portion was excruciating. Speech after speech about children's literacy and the importance of giving back. Jake was scheduled to speak, part of his image rehabilitation plan. When he took the stage, I felt Cassie tense beside me. Here we go, I whispered. Jake's speech started normally enough, thanking the organizers, talking about the importance of education, the usual charity gala pablum. But then he started going off script. I also want to take this opportunity to address some recent allegations, he said, and the room went silent. There's been a lot said about me in the media, a lot of lies spread by someone I once considered a friend, and I think it's time everyone knew the truth. Oh, this was going to be good. Nick Rowan has spent the last month trying to destroy my reputation and the reputation of his ex-wife, Elena. He's manipulated evidence, fabricated conversations, and used his connections to paint us as villains, when really, we're the victims of his controlling, abusive behavior. Murmurs in the crowd. Some supportive of Jake, others skeptical. Elena and I made mistakes, yes. We got close during a difficult time in her marriage. But we never conspired against Nick. We never tried to steal his business. Those are lies created by a man who couldn't handle his wife finding happiness elsewhere. I felt Cassie's hand tighten on mine. Nick, wait for it. So I'm asking everyone here tonight to look past the tabloid nonsense and see the truth. Elena and I are good people who made human mistakes. Nick Rowan is a manipulator who... That's when the screens lit up. I'd worked with the AV team earlier, told them I was preparing a surprise tribute video. What I'd actually prepared was a greatest hits compilation of Elena and Jake's lies, set to their own words. The first clip, Elena's interview where she blamed Jake for everything. He manipulated me, he seduced me, he used me to get to Nick's business. The second clip, Jake's interview where he blamed Elena. She orchestrated everything. She came to me, I was just stupid enough to believe her. Back and forth, their contradicting stories playing out on massive screens while Jake stood frozen at the podium. But the best part was the final clip. The one Avery had helped me obtain through completely legal but deeply questionable means. It was from 2 days ago. Elena and Jake, meeting in a parking garage, thinking they were alone. Avery's partner had followed them. "We need to stick to the story," Elena was saying. "If we contradict each other again, we're done." "What story?" Jake sounded frustrated. "You've told 3 different versions. The version where we're the victims, where Nick manipulated everything and we were just caught in the crossfire." "Nobody's buying that anymore, Elena. We need to cut our losses." "No, I'm not letting him win. I'm not letting him ride off into the sunset with my sister while I'm left with nothing." "Then what do you suggest?" "We hit him where it hurts, his business. I still have contacts at the Planning Commission. We can make problems for the Kellerman project. Delays, violations, anything to cost him money and time." "That's insane. That's actual sabotage." "So? What are they going to do? Arrest us? We're already ruined. Might as well make sure he goes down with us." The video ended. The ballroom was silent. Jake was white as a sheet. Elena had stood up from her table, staring at the screens in horror. I stood up and walked to the stage. Jake didn't try to stop me as I took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but I think we all just heard something important." I looked directly at Elena. "You wanted to know why I've been so determined to expose you? That's why. Because even now, even after losing everything, you can't stop trying to destroy me. You can't accept that you lost. You can't move on." "That video is fake," Elena shouted. "He fabricated it, just like everything else." "The metadata says otherwise. Detective Avery, would you like to confirm?" Avery stood up, showing his badge. "The video is authentic, time-stamped, location verified, and admissible in court. Conspiracy to commit fraud is a serious charge." Elena's face crumbled. She looked around, searching for support, but found none. Everyone stared at her with a mix of shock and disgust. Jake tried to leave, but I blocked his path. "Where are you going? We're not done yet." "Get out of my way." "Not until you admit it. The affair, the con, the plan to steal my business. Say it in front of everyone." "I don't have to tell you anything." "No, but you're going to. Because if you don't, I'll release every piece of evidence to the media, texts, emails, photos. Your name will be synonymous with con artist for the rest of your life." Jake's jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might punch me again, but then his shoulders sagged. "Fine. Yes, we had an affair. Yes, we planned to wait until your business took off, then divorce you. Yes, we were going to use the Kellerman project to set ourselves up. Are you happy now?" Ecstatic. "Elena?" She was crying, mascara running down her face. "I hate you. I hate both of you." "I'll take that as a confession." I turned to the crowd. "I'm sorry you had to witness this, but I needed you to see the truth. Elena and Jake aren't victims. They're con artists who got caught, and they would have kept trying to hurt me and my wife if I hadn't stopped them here, tonight, in front of all of you." I handed the microphone back to the stunned event organizer and walked off the stage. Cassie met me halfway, and we left the ballroom while the crowd erupted into shocked conversation. Behind us, I heard Elena screaming, at Jake, the organizers, anyone who would listen. But nobody was listening anymore. Outside, the night air was cool and salty from the harbor. Cassie and I stood on the hotel steps, still breathing hard from the adrenaline. "Did we really just do that?" she asked. "Yeah, we did." "That was insane." "I know." "That was also kind of amazing." "I know that too." We laughed until we were both out of breath, sitting on the steps as people left the gala, giving us strange looks. I didn't care. It was over. Frank and Martha found us a few minutes later. Frank was grinning like a maniac. "Kid, that was savage. Remind me never to get on your bad side." "Noted. What happens now?" Martha asked. "Will they face charges?" "Probably. Avery's got enough for conspiracy, maybe fraud. But honestly, I don't care. They're done. Their reputations are shot, careers ruined, and everyone in Boston knows exactly who they are. That's enough for me." Cassie leaned her head on my shoulder. "Can we go home now? I'm exhausted." "Yeah, let's go home." The aftermath was surprisingly anticlimactic. Elena and Jake were both charged with conspiracy to commit fraud. Elena took a plea deal, got probation and community service. Jake fought it, lost, and ended up with 6 months in minimum security. The lawsuits were dropped, the whisper campaigns died out, and life slowly returned to normal. Cassie's art career took off. The publicity from the whole mess had made her name recognizable, and a gallery in New York offered her a show. She was hesitant at first, worried people would only come for the gossip. But the reviews were good, really good, and suddenly she was being taken seriously as an artist. My business thrived. The Kellerman project was a massive success, and suddenly everyone wanted to work with the guy who'd outsmarted the con artists. Frank and I had to hire 3 new engineers just to keep up with demand. And Cassie and I, we figured it out. It wasn't always easy. We had a lot of baggage to work through, a lot of questions about whether our relationship was built on something real or just revenge. But we went to counseling. We talked, we learned each other in ways that had nothing to do with Elena or Jake. 6 months after the gala, we renewed our vows. Small ceremony, just Frank and Martha and a few close friends. No drama, no schemes, no revenge. Just 2 people choosing each other, for real this time. I saw Elena one last time, about a year after everything ended. I was at a coffee shop in Cambridge, working on a proposal, when she walked in. She looked different. Older, tired, dressed in jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer armor. She saw me immediately, and for a moment I thought she might leave. But instead, she walked over. "Hi, Nick." "Elena. Can I sit?" I gestured to the empty chair. She sat down, nervous, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. The affair, the con, the way I treated you. You deserved better." "Yeah, I did." "Cassie's good for you. I've seen the pictures. You look happy." "I am." "Good. That's good." She stood up. "I should go. I just wanted you to know that I know I was wrong, for what it's worth. Elena," she turned back, "I forgive you." Her eyes filled with tears. "Really?" "Really. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm done carrying that anger around. It's too heavy." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and left. I watched her go, feeling nothing but a vague sense of relief. That chapter was closed. Time to focus on the next one. Cassie came home that night to find me on the couch, staring at nothing. "You okay?" she asked. "I saw Elena today." She tensed. And I told her I forgive her." "Do you? Really?" "Yeah, I think I do." I pulled her down next to me. I spent so long being angry, planning revenge, making sure she paid for what she did. And she did pay. They both did. But at some point, holding on to that anger stopped being about justice and started being about me not wanting to let go. And now? Now I'm ready to let go. I've got you. I've got my business. I've got a life that's actually mine instead of one that was built on lies. That's enough. That's more than enough. She kissed me, soft and sweet. "I love you, Nick Rowan." "I love you too, Cassie Rowan." We sat there in the quiet of our apartment. Our home, not mine or hers, but ours. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The revenge had been satisfying. The victory had been sweet. But this quiet moment with someone who actually loved me, this was what winning really felt like. 3 years later, Cassie and I were at another charity gala. Different venue, different cause, but same crowd of Boston elite pretending they cared about something other than gossip. We were there because Cassie was being honored for her work with a youth art program. She was nervous, kept adjusting her dress and checking her speech notes. "You're going to be great," I told her. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one giving a speech in front of 300 people." "I've done worse in front of bigger crowds," she laughed. "Fair point." The ceremony started, and I watched my wife, my real wife, not the con artist I'd married the first time, accept her award and give a speech about the importance of art education. She was articulate, passionate, genuine. Everything Elena had pretended to be, but never was. After the ceremony, we mingled. I was talking to a potential client when I saw him. Jake. He was across the room, wearing a cheap suit and looking uncomfortable. He'd gotten out of prison 6 months ago, was working as a junior analyst at some no-name firm. He saw me at the same time, and his face went pale. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the crowded ballroom. Then he nodded, a small acknowledgement of defeat, and turned away. I let him go. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to prove. Cassie found me a few minutes later. "Was that Jake?" "Yeah." "You okay?" "Yeah, I am." And I was. Because I'd learned something important over the past 3 years. Revenge is satisfying, but it's not the same as happiness. Destroying your enemies feels good in the moment, but building a life with someone you love feels good forever. Elena and Jake had tried to destroy me, and I'd destroyed them right back. But in the end, the best revenge wasn't the public humiliation or the legal consequences or the ruined reputations. The best revenge was this: standing in a ballroom with my wife, watching her be celebrated for her talent, knowing that I'd built something real out of the ashes of their betrayal. They'd tried to take everything from me. Instead, I'd lost nothing that mattered and gained everything that did. That's the thing about structural engineering. You learn that the strongest buildings aren't the ones that never face stress. They're the ones that face stress and don't break. Elena and Jake had stress tested me, and I hadn't broken. I'd rebuilt. And what I'd rebuilt was stronger, better, and completely mine. Later that night, back at home, Cassie and I were getting ready for bed. She was taking off her jewelry, and I was loosening my tie, and everything felt perfectly, beautifully normal. "Nick," she said. "Yeah? Do you ever regret it? The way everything happened, the revenge, the public spectacle, all of it?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret making them face consequences. I don't regret exposing the truth, but I do regret how much time I spent focused on destroying them instead of building us." We got there eventually. We did, but it took longer than it should have. She came over and wrapped her arms around me. "You know what I don't regret? Marrying you. Even though it started as a crazy revenge scheme, even though everyone thought we were insane, even though we had no idea if it would work, I don't regret any of it." "Me neither." "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." "Neither am I." We stood there in our bedroom, holding each other, and I realized something. This was the ending I'd been looking for all along. Not the public humiliation of my enemies, not the satisfaction of revenge, but this quiet moment of certainty. Elena and Jake had taught me what betrayal looked like. Cassie taught me what loyalty looked like. And I'd learned that the second one was infinitely more valuable than the first. 5 years after the gala confrontation, Frank retired and sold me his share of the business. I renamed it Rowan & Associates and brought on 2 new partners, young, hungry engineers who reminded me of myself before everything happened. Cassie's art was in galleries across the country. She'd done a TED Talk about turning personal trauma into creative fuel that had gone viral. She was happy, successful, and most importantly, herself. We'd bought a house in Cambridge, nothing fancy but ours, had a dog named Blueprint, Cassie's idea of a joke about my profession. We're talking about maybe having kids someday when the time was right. I still thought about Elena and Jake sometimes, wondered where they were, what they were doing, if they'd managed to rebuild their lives the way I had. But the thoughts were distant now, like remembering a movie I'd seen years ago rather than something that had happened to me. The anger was gone. The need for revenge was gone. All that was left was gratitude, for the life I had, for the woman I'd built it with, for the lessons I'd learned the hard way. Someone once told me that the best revenge is living well. They were right. But I'd add something to that. The best revenge is living well with someone who chose you when they didn't have to, who stood by you when it was hard, who loved you when you weren't sure you were lovable. Elena had chosen me for what I could give her. Cassie had chosen me for who I was. And that made all the difference. The last time I saw Elena, it was at a restaurant downtown. She was with someone, a man I didn't recognize, middle-aged, kind-looking. They seemed happy, or at least comfortable. She saw me but didn't approach, just gave me a small smile and a nod. I nodded back. No drama, no confrontation, just 2 people who'd once been married acknowledging each other's existence and moving on. It was the most peaceful interaction we'd ever had. On our 5th anniversary, Cassie and I went back to City Hall, the place where we'd gotten married in a whirlwind of revenge and desperation and hope. "You know," she said as we stood on the steps, "I always wondered if we'd make it this far, if what we had was real or just adrenaline and spite. And now? Now I know it's real, the realest thing in my life. Mine too." We kissed on the steps of City Hall, just like we had 5 years ago. But this time there was no scheme, no revenge plot, no ulterior motive. Just 2 people who'd found each other in the wreckage of betrayal and built something beautiful. Elena and Jake had tried to destroy me. Instead, they'd freed me. Freed me to find something real, something honest, something that didn't need lies or manipulation to survive. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all. I ran into Jake one last time, years later, at a construction site. He was working for a subcontractor doing inspections. We recognized each other immediately. "Nick?" he said. "Jake." Awkward silence. "Look," he said finally, I know sorry doesn't cut it. I know what I did was unforgivable. But for what it's worth, I am sorry. You deserved better. Yeah, I did. You and Cassie, I heard you're doing well. That's good. I'm glad. Thanks. More silence. I'm getting married, he said suddenly. Next month. To someone who actually likes me for me, not for what I can give her. It's weird being with someone honest. It is, but it's better. Yeah, he looked at me. Are we okay? Not friends. I know that's not possible, but okay? I thought about it. About all the anger, all the revenge, all the pain. About the years I'd spent hating him and Elena. About the life I'd built in spite of them. Yeah, I said. We're okay. He nodded, relieved, and walked away. I watched him go, feeling nothing but a vague sense of closure. The war was over, had been over for years. But that was the official end, the moment when I finally, truly let it go. That night, I told Cassie about running into Jake. How do you feel? She asked. Okay, good actually. Like I finally closed a door that's been open too long. No more revenge fantasies? No more revenge fantasies. Good, because I have plans for you that don't involve elaborate schemes. Oh yeah? What kind of plans? She smiled, that beautiful smile that was all hers and nothing like her sister's. The kind that involved growing old together and being boring and happy. Sounds perfect. And it was. 20 years later, I'm standing in my office, looking at a photo on my desk. It's from our vow renewal, the one we did 5 years after the chaos. Cassie and I smiling at each other like we're the only two people in the world. Behind me, the door opens. It's my daughter, Elena. Yes, we named her Elena because Cassie insisted we reclaim the name. Home from college for the weekend. Dad, you coming? Mom's got dinner ready. Yes, sweetheart, I'm coming. I take one last look at the photo, at the man I was and the man I became, and I smile. Elena and Jake had tried to write my story. They'd cast me as the fool, the mark, the guy who'd never see it coming, but I'd taken their story and rewritten it, made myself the hero instead of the victim, made my ending a happy one instead of a tragic one. And in the process, I'd learned something important. Revenge is satisfying, but forgiveness is freeing. Destruction is easy, but building something real is hard and worthwhile and beautiful. I'd gotten my revenge. I'd destroyed my enemies. I'd won. But more importantly, I'd survived. I'd rebuilt. I'd found love and happiness and peace. And that was the real victory. Not the public humiliation or the legal consequences or the ruined reputations, but this. A normal evening with my family, in a home filled with love, living a life that was completely, genuinely mine. Elena and Jake had given me the worst betrayal of my life, and I'd turned it into the best thing that ever happened to me. That's the last laugh. That's the real revenge. That's the ending I chose.